the turnout. It's very important that we keep track of where it's going, so I appreciate you spending your time with us on Saturday. We would like to thank Venue 519 for allowing us to have this space today, the Belle Police Department who's making a presence today, and then Tom Ritter for being our moderator today. We have, if you guys don't know, this is Tom Ritter. We have Travis Ismay for District 28B rep. We have Jana Hunt, she's District 28A rep. And then Sam Marty, he's our District 28 Senator. And then we have, we want to thank Sabrina Harmon, she is with WIT, Whatever It Takes, Coalition for setting the Cracker Barrel up with Newell and Fourche today. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Tom so we can get started.
Short notice. I noticed about 10 minutes ago we didn't have one. We got it.
Thank you for saying that.
Appreciate that. Thank you all for coming out this afternoon on what turned out to be a beautiful day. So we will start before I use. I'll give these three guys a few minutes and girl a few minutes to tell what they got going on here. We'll open it up for questions, and I think there's Campbell County Commissioners here too. If you have any commission questions, James would love to answer them. So thanks for me. And everybody else, I think our Sheriff's Department is represented. So thank you all for being here. Sam, let's start with Janet. Duty 480. Yeah. Go ahead.
So my name is Janet Hunt. I represent District 28A. For those of you that don't know, our district is split in two for our House representatives. And 28A is Corson County, Dewey County, Beaver County, and the lower half of Perkins County. So that's the district that I represent. But District 28 encompasses us as a whole, so I usually come over here because what's an issue to them is usually an issue to me as well. So that's why it's important to be here. I'm a member of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, so in my district I have the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation and the Saginaw Reservation, so I represent them as well. I will say this, when I ran on a couple of different principles, but the number one thing in my life is my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So when I'm voting, my main priority is to make sure that it doesn't cross the Bible or God's will for my life and for the state of South Dakota. Secondly, I really respect the United States Constitution, and I vote according to that principle. We don't really want to do stuff that's unconstitutional. And then I really love the way of life here in rural South Dakota. I love my life as a rancher. I want to preserve that lifestyle for my nieces and my nephews and the next generations that are to come. And I want to make sure that my votes reflect that we're preserving that lifestyle. So those are kind of my major priorities as I go down here to vote. We vote on a lot of things that don't have a direct effect to that, but a lot of them do. And when I vote, it's according to those three foundational principles in my life. So that's a little bit about me. We can go more into what's happening this session, and I'll let Travis talk about himself for a second.
It's not going to take long. Representative Travis Ismay, District 28B. I'm your representative, so a lot of the things Jana said there is my Lord and Savior is my guide, so I'm in complete agreement with everything Jana said there. I'm not going to bore you with repeating it, but I went to here to try and do the best thing I could, or vote the best way I could, and I'm a rancher. We've got ranches in Butte County and up in Perkins County, about 6 miles south of Buffalo, or Bison, sorry. Same thing, right? But anyway, I guess I'm just here to hear from my constituents, and if you guys have any problems, or if you guys got questions about any bills that have come up, or came forward my committees, or anything like that. Oh, I'm on education and ag and natural resources committee too.
Hi, I'm Sam Martin, and I represent the whole district of 28. It goes from south of Belle, Fourche, up to the North Dakota border, and then all the way over to the Missouri River, just west of Woolridge. So it's a land mass, I think it's the biggest land mass district in the state. So it's, and I'm on House Ag, Senate Ag, and Senate Education and Military Affairs. I'm a regional cook on military affairs. I'm a Vietnam veteran. Kind of proud of that because I'm probably the only one still serving that is a Vietnam veteran. And I agree with Jana. I serve because I want to preserve our Constitution and follow that as good as I can. And that's how I vote. And I want to keep our property rights are being, I don't know if attack is a bit strong, but we've always got to be watching over our property rights. And that's one reason I ran my last term is because they were attacking our property rights on the Senate authority. And whether it's in town or out of the country, it's your property rights. And I'm protecting town life and country life. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I know we had a well-attended borough renewal this morning. Seems like there's always different topics that want to come up, and respect that. Things that are important on that end of the county aren't necessarily that notable here, but anybody have a question? Don't be shy.
Okay, I got some. Keep going. Clark Sowers, Belle Fourche. Do I need one?
Yes.
Wouldn't hurt.
Clark Sowers, Belle Fourche. I want to thank you all for coming, Tom, for emceeing it. We have two questions. One concerns Senate Bill 3, that concerning the limit of types of residential improvements for which counties, cities, and townships may require a permit. We're kind of wondering what the purpose of that is, as well as House Bill 1091. It requires that an agenda and certain attachments be posted at least 72 hours prior to a regular meeting of a political subdivision. That corrected information then be posted at least 24 hours prior to a meeting of a political subdivision. And that the agenda and attachments be posted as soon as possible prior to any special scheduled meeting. What's the purpose of that?
Okay, so
Does that just pertain to state meetings? Or is it?
So are we gonna work on Senate Bill 3 first?
Yeah.
House Bill, what was the other House Bill?
House Bill 1091 and Senate Bill 3.
Okay, let's take Senate Bill 3 first, because I think that's what we have pulled up.
Okay?
I haven't read it yet, because I'm on the House side, but we can read it real quick.
Okay.
I can read it aloud, and everyone would like to be on the same page. Okay.
Notwithstanding any authority granted to a county, municipality, or township to prescribe building codes or standards, or to issue building permits, a county, municipality, or township may not require a building permit for the repair or substantially similar replacement of any of the following existing exterior parts of an owner-occupied residential structure: door, downspout, fencing, panel or post, gutter, roof, flashing, shingles, shakes, or tiles, siding and window, or any interior alteration, improvement, or renovation of an owner-occupied residential structure which does not affect the structure's air conditioning, electric heating, plumbing, or ventilation system in a manner requiring any off-bearing modification, foundation, load-bearing walls, roof ring, or support beam. So it seems like, so they're trying to say that the authorities of a county, municipality, or township cannot require building permits for those things that I listed earlier on the outside or interiorly, those things I listed earlier for the interior. I'm imagining Senator Roll is bringing this, and there must have been an issue in his district. I don't know. It hasn't been seen yet.
are your thoughts? What are your concerns?
Well, the concerns of the city are you getting rid of all these codes so there's no oversight at all? I know during our 22 storm that we had here, there's a lot of contractors that came in that did not necessarily good work, and they have to have oversight with our building inspector and such. And I think you're opening a lot of concerns for quality construction and responsible construction.
Okay, but just so you guys know, this isn't our bill.
Well, but it may come before you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and that's where we're at. I'm not gonna argue about after the fact.
Right, absolutely, great, thank you for doing
On
that.
that, so this is our concern here.
So you're against this bill, Clark?
The city has concerns with it
Okay.
on that, so I guess I don't know if I'm the only one representing the city, but the city has concerns with it.
Absolutely, and please do that. We're encouraging anybody that has any problem with these bills, please contact us. Because we can't do anything after the fact, just like you said. We want to hear from our constituents, all three of us.
Yeah, and I know these bills come up because something happened. I mean, it happens to us too, you know, so. But, and then with, the House Bill 1091, I know there's requirements for posting already, but 72 hours. And if you have to make a corrected posting, at least 24 hours, why don't we just do it right in the 24-hour time period? Because we work pretty hard at that.
Ninety-one got killed.
Did it?
And 1091,
Yes,
yeah,
it died.
41st day.
Okay, that's good. I will
It
share
died?
that information.
It died.
It died.
It's done.
It's
Yeah,
done.
it's done. Sorry, I should have been up here.
But Senate Bill 3 has not been seen.
Okay, all right. Thank you for hearing me out.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you for bringing it.
So, Clark, would you, just a question for you, when you look at the building, what's required for a building permit, would you maybe agree that a certain dollar amount maybe ought to be put on that? Obviously, you shouldn't need a building permit to fix a downspout, but maybe up to so many $1,000 for repair?
You know, I'd like to have talked with our engineering department, see what they have to say about that. Because I get it. I mean, there's things that are charged. I would think a downspout repair, isn't it? Yeah, but there's a common sense area to that.
Yeah.
You know, but to completely gut this stuff is wrong.
Send us an email when you get your final thought, if it's
Okay.
good that, or if you want an amendment.
Okay, I'll talk to them.
You know, sometimes a simple amendment or something can make a, objections more palatable or whatever.
Yeah, I'm Public Works Committee Chairman, and I've got to have a meeting with them, and I'll mention this, and see if they can get something.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
So, other questions?
Well, let's go.
Right here?
My name is Mike Renee. I'm here with the chamber, and I have a flag for you. I'm a retired military, also a Vietnam vet myself. I spent 30 years. I'm here to talk about or ask about House Bill 1147. It's about feeding South Dakota. I'm also the person here in Belle Fourche that orders the food from Feeding South Dakota for our compassionate cover here in Belle. We feed approximately 100 to 125 families a month here in Belle Fourche. Some of you know it, some of you don't. And we do take care of ourselves. We do eat a lot of food from Feeding South Dakota down in Rapid. And I'd just like to see if we could, you guys could vote in favor of that bill 1147 for us. It's money that's going to producers, and support our communities here, large and small. So, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay, that's House Bill 1147, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna research that.
You have it in front of you?
Yeah, I do.
Well, basically, it was referred to the joint committee on appropriations, hasn't had a hearing yet.
Yeah, we won't see it until it's out of appropriations.
It's a $5 million appropriation. What has been the history of that? Do you know what funding
We
is?
get most of our funding comes from generalized donations here in Belle Fourche. We do, during the Christmas season, holiday season, we have ringing the bells, basically in competition with Salvation Army. But our money stays here in Belle Fourche, where I understand the Salvation Army goes down to Rapid or wherever it goes. It does not stay here in Belle Fourche. All our money stays here in Belle Fourche. Waring Motors, Scott Peterson Motors, just does a great big food drive for us, and the Boy Scouts here in town, and we get a lot of donations during the holiday season. We're starting to taper off now, and we do need some more donations coming in, so we do appreciate that here in Belle Fourche. Like I said, 100 to 125 people, depending on the season and the weather and all that too. We also come in, Feeding South Dakota does come in once a month. We're open, Compassion Cover's right across the street, and we do come in twice a week, Tuesdays from 9 a.m. till noon, and Thursday afternoons from 2 to 6 p.m. and distribute food from there. We give out approximately, like I said, 100 families, but it's about 2 weeks worth of food if we give it a time. And they come in once a month. During November, we did have we did distribute a little more than that because of the government SNAP program was canceled and all that, so we did allow people to come in and do a second pickup during November. So that we had about 150 to 175 families come in that time to do it. We are rated at different categories. We do keep count of number of households, number of seniors, and that's people over 60, and adults 18 to 59, and then children 0 to 17. And we keep track of all those. I don't have those figures right in my head right now. I'm a statistic taker for the community. It is by our ministerial association, really heads it up here. We have 10 different churches that volunteer during the month, and so we take turns so that they don't see the same people as the Compassion Cover distributing all the time. We kind of keep it separate that way anymore.
Okay, thank
So
you.
how
Well,
does
that
House
definitely-
Bill 1147 affect
We will
your
get
program?
the
Plus or minus?
it should be a plus if we get more money. So that we will get additional funds.
So if we're for the food program, we're for 1147.
I don't quite understand it.
Well, is Senate House Bill 1147 for promoting the program or diminishing it?
Promoting it so that we can get additional funds.
Thank you. I just wanted that to be clear.
They'll go through the appropriation process. I see it's not scheduled for a hearing at this point, but I'm sure it'll be coming up pretty quick.
I have a question for Mike here. I'm with Belle Senior Center. We do distributing South Dakota feeding too. We have 47 boxes. Does that include yours or are we?
No, okay. I've been with the Feeding South Dakota. I'm the Secretary of Statistics keeper for them and also order. I've been with them approximately 10 years now. And there are basically 3 different distributions here in Belle Fourche. We get the Compassion Covered, where we order things come in, we pay for that. Then there's the giveaway that they do once a month down at the Roundup grounds. They bring a semi in, and we get approximately 150 to 200 people come in and get theirs. And then the senior boxes is what the senior center gets. And those are, if I'm not mistaken, those are economically, they have to fill out a form before they do it, and they're finances are checked on that one. So that one's an additional one for low-income families at the senior boxes. We didn't have the capacity. We were going to, they asked, Speeding South Dakota asked us if we could take it on, and we didn't have the capacity at that time to store the food baskets. So that's why the senior center does the senior boxes on them.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add, I do work occasionally over there at the Compassion Cover, and there have been some months, particularly last fall, where we didn't have enough money to buy flour, sugar, some really basic stuff, salt, pepper, gone. Couldn't get it. So anyway, it would be helpful.
We know that. We know that there is I don't know what the proper word is here, but the continual stuff that you need, salt, pepper, flour, sugar, all that kind of stuff. Feeding South Dakota does not stock that. They do not stock it, so I cannot order it. Those are all local purchases. Right now, when we can, and we do go to Looters, Lynch, Dakota, and for some of us, the Family Dollar here, they have combined salt and pepper shakers together in a box for $1 a piece. So we go in there and get about 10 packages of that at a time to fill our stocks. So it either comes out of our home pocket or we do a great big order at Labels Transport, Looters here. Occasionally during the holidays, so we raided Walmart, and when they had all their canned vegetables on sale down to 50 cents a can. So that really helped us, except that the story on that one is Walmart, and then when you go to pay for it, you just swipe 3 cans through and say, okay, I got 3, and then I got 44 more for 40, or 45 more for 48 cans. Okay? Now, this corporate, I talked to the people at Walmart, and they said, we don't do that anymore. You got to swipe each individual can. Now, okay, that's fine. So you buy 6 cans, 6 24-ounce cans, it's 144 cans. You run them through 144 cans, and you run 56 more cans through, you have to close out your account and pay for that, and then start all over again. So, it takes a while. It takes a while on that.
We appreciate that. We appreciate the update. Keep an eye on that appropriations bill.
One last point of clarification, please, with this gentleman. So will the senior center benefit from House Bill 1147 increasing funding?
Not really, because the people that get the senior boxes, they fill out the form, they have to be verified of their income.
Comes from a different.
No, it's still from Stop Feeding South Dakota, from his group, but it's a different entity altogether. So we only have certain, we do not order. They're pre-ordered and they just show up and we distribute them, is all we do.
I've been down to the warehouse down in Rapid City where we get ours from, and they have a lot of volunteers down there. And the ones Feeding South Dakota, the senior boxes, and the one at the Roundup grounds are pre-packaged down in Rapid. So I have no idea what's there. I just order from here from the Compassion Cover. And that's the only way I know what we're
That
getting.
House bill is part of the big picture. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Just one more clarification question. In other words, if they vote for this bill, this is going to help with anything to feed the people in South Dakota.
Yes, it will be statewide, and it will help everybody in the large and small cities too.
Compassion covered and the senior boxes. All of them, right?
Yes, as far as I know, it encompasses all of Feeding South Dakota.
Okay. Thank you very much for the information. Thank you for the questions. Other topics, other questions? If not, they know what I'll do. I'll start asking questions. So, Jen, I know you're thinking of bringing a bill about making the brand inspection statewide. It's been tried before. Obviously, East River farmers and ranchers don't like that. So if they had a clue what it even meant, they maybe would. But explain to me your process.
So, I'm on House Ag Committee. We recently had the Department Secretary come and report to us the DANR report of the DANR means Department of Ag and Natural Resources, so I'm just going to refer to it as DANR. And in that report, he touched on a brand board report. Now, I'm a rancher, and I ran my livestock, both horses and my cattle, so the brand board is a daily part of my life. It's not a daily. Every time I go to sell, it's a big part of my life. But I'm not going to bore you with the details of that, but I will just say the brand board is very poorly mismanaged. And we've gone to the state legislature many times to try and address some of those issues, and we've yet to get anything across the board to actually address any of those issues. And one of the representatives, when our secretary was giving the report to the committee, asked him, we have rising cattle theft concerns in the state, but yet we only inspect half of the state versus the entire state. Our brand inspection laws only apply to the western portion of our state, and at the river, they don't apply east. And he asked our secretary, what can we do about that? How can we kind of fix that problem? And I'll admit, I was very upset by our secretary's response. I actually wrote an article and posted it in my district papers. The secretary responded, and this is not verbatim, but in my article I have the quote verbatim. He pretty much said, if you're going to go and take your cattle to the pasture, you need to check on them more than once, and you probably shouldn't take them to the reservation if you expect them to be there when you come back to get them. That was his response on how to help with the cattle theft issue that is a growing concern in our state. Now, I'm a member of Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe. I've lived on a reservation my entire life. Cattle theft is not just happening on reservations. It's happening in Butte County. It's happening East River. I do not appreciate the out-of-touch response that our secretary gave to the committee. And like I said, we brought issues before, and the secretary's actually fought us in the past on trying to improve the brand board. So that led me to the point where it's like, we've got to try to do something because the status quo is not working. If you go to a sale barn, my parents are at a sale barn in Fort Pierre now, and they're trying to buy some 3-year-old baldy heifers, $5,100 per head. It is now a profitable business to steal a cow because you can make $5,000 on one cow. If you take a calf that is laying in the pasture without a brand on it and haul it home and milk it for a little bit, you're going to make $2,000. It is now worth the effort to steal livestock. And the fact that the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture does not think that is a viable or legit concern and kind of brushes it off and says it's a reservation problem is very concerning to me, and it should be very concerning to anybody that supports ag in our state. So with that, I am going to bring a bill to try and make brand inspection statewide because this cattle theft problem is growing. It's living close to the Missouri River, people that live on both sides. It is so frustrating. When you have livestock stolen in this state, the number one thing that you get told is you need to be a better steward of your livestock. You need to take care of your livestock better. Well, I'm here to tell you, we go and check our calves every day. We feed our cows every day. And we as operators are now just budgeting into our bottom line really high debt loss, knowing that some of that debt loss is actually theft. And I believe that making state inspections statewide would put brand inspectors in the sale barns East River. So if one of my branded critters happens to get to Aberdeen or Sioux Falls and they see that open box heart on a cow, the inspector's going to say, well, if that cow belongs to Jana Hunt, I should make sure that we hold this check and we give this money back to her. To date, if somebody would take a cow out of my pasture that has my brand and take it over to Yankton or Sioux Falls or Aberdeen or Huron and it has my brand, there's no inspector. So whoever took that cow to that sale barn is going to get the check. And right now, that's a $5,000 check. So I'm obviously very passionate about this, and I'm why are we forcing people to pay into it if they're not going to try to help producers protect the honest ownership of the cattle that are being sold? So, that sums up that for you guys.
Anybody in the front row here?
Well, that Brantford needs a total overhaul of that. Are they still making off with all the funds for the strayed and missing livestock up there up these sale barns? They don't make much of an effort to find the owners.
So there's a lot of accountability spread to that subject, and I would say in the last year and a half. So what I said earlier about if I have a cow that shows up in Yankton and they wouldn't, they just write the check or brought it here, that doesn't happen in faith. If my brand shows up on a piece of cow, on a cow in faith or Belle, Fourche or St. Orange, the sale run's going to hold that back, and they're going to say this doesn't belong to the person who brought it in. Brand work, figure out who it belongs to. And there wasn't a long time ago. It wasn't a long time ago that the brand workers were just holding the checks, and they weren't investigating who the check actually belonged to. There was a lot of pressure put on them to do their job, so they have begun to get those checks back. And it's just proven that it happens a lot because they were able to build up a fund where they kept these checks up to like over $400,000. And that was back before cattle were selling for $5,000 pop. That was back when we were still at the 1,200 per calf range. So I think they're getting better about it. I'm not confident that they're great at it.
You know, at one time we had a fairly decent brand program, even though it was only West River, and Governor Rounds stopped that.
There's a lot of painful history with this whole.
Just so everybody knows, this has nothing to do with requiring anybody to brand their cattle. It's all about the paper trail.
The ownership.
You know, I've had cattle from people on my feedlot. I went from Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota. It didn't matter. They didn't have to brand it. It's all about the paper trail, and that's what this is, to prevent theft. It's not to require anybody to brand anything or do anything.
I just wanted to give you one example on this cattle theft business. Dean Shrimp, he was a representative from Eagle View, and this is years ago. He lost, I don't know how many, eight. Well, so somehow they traced them over to a Oak Ridge feedlot. He couldn't get them back. They had the brands on them, and he couldn't get them back because they were East River. It's a serious thing. I know this probably isn't a lot of agricultural people here, but it's a big deal in South Dakota. And then this fall, a neighbor of mine, and they have 3 people watching their cattle all the time, lost at least 30 head. So 30 times 4,000.
Don.
Okay?
So Sam, in your story right there, I am from the city. When I hear stories about this that are messing with our ag people, that really gets me mad. That is outrageous. Arrests for these people should be way up if they're recognizing the brand and they trace it to the person is probably there or they're gone.
Our
Or
state,
an illegal cow.
our state doesn't take it serious. If you rob a bank of 50,000, you'd be in jail for several years. You do the same to cattle, you get 3-4 years.
Gotta get that fixed.
And on top of that, all these cattle thefts affects businesses in our town. Because it's just less money that they're spending on our local businesses.
Question?
Yeah.
So there's a large usage of the term economic development. It's a big buzzword, everybody wants economic development. But the most important thing in economic development, which is lost sometimes, is the most important thing you can do is take care of the industries you already have, and that's ag.
Right.
Amen.
Thank you. Other? Other questions?
Well,
Yes.
so are these people that are showing up to the sales with these cattle that are sold, are they getting charged, or are they just not getting their money and being let go?
So to have a brand inspection area works right now today, I sell at weight. That's the closest sale barn to me. And I get charged $1 per head for the brand inspection fee.
if I go to a sale, so I sell 200 calves, I'm getting charged $200 for the brand inspection fee. That same law doesn't apply over East River. However, Low Bridge that's on the river that gets a lot of West River producers, they do have a brand inspector there to charge the West River producers the inspection fee, but if you got East River producers coming in, they don't get charged the inspection fee. I think the same goes for Platte. It's on the river, they'll charge the West River producers the brand inspection fee. They won't charge the East River producers because they're not in the jurisdiction. So, right now, our fees are, if you're gonna come to a person's, like our people that sell bulls, they'll have a brand inspector come to their ranch to inspect their bulls there, and then they'll take the bulls wherever they're going, wherever they sold them. But if you're gonna sell your cattle at a sale barn, they have an inspector on site.
I'm sorry, I mean, like, are they getting criminal charges though for trying to sell these cattle without the brand? Are they just not getting the check at the end of the sale? You said they hold the check. Are they actually getting charged?
So what
for
happens
keeping
a
them?
lot is my calf will run into my neighbor's pasture and they just load all the cows up and they take them to Dupree, and the inspector will say, hey, neighbor got the wrong calf, we're gonna pull the check. And so then my neighbor would get held a criminal charge. But if there's a person that brings in 5 of my calves that doesn't own any cattle, the inspector can flag it to the sheriff. But we don't really prosecute any of those.
Well, the whole system is kind of based on honesty, and sometimes that's just not enough, you know. So, other questions, topics?
Is that a House bill or a Senate bill that they're working on?
It's gonna be a House bill, I haven't dropped it yet, because when you drop a bill, if I would wanna fix any of the language, I'd have to bring an amendment. I have a draft right now, and I'm talking with other organizations to fix the wordage before I send it out to the public, so that way I don't have to amend it. So it doesn't have a number yet, but it will be dropped by next week. I'm just working on how to word it right, and to give the brand board enough time to implement it, because it will be a big overhaul. For the western side of the state, we have 130 employees that work as brand inspectors, and the east side of our state has about twice the amount of cattle moving around. So if we're talking about employees, it's going to raise the ag employees in the state at least by 200 people. So it's going to take a little bit for the brand board to implement it.
Jenna wrote an editorial, and it's in a lot of the local papers. I know it's in the prosecutor's.
This is a Spearfish paper.
Spearfish paper, it's in Hardin County paper, and Charlotte papers. It's a good informational thing if you want to read it.
Just a little information, to talk about dropping bills. Thursday, this past was the deadline for unlimited number of bills. After that, each legislator has three more bills they can drop within, is it a week? 2 weeks. Next Thursday. Okay. So get down, it stops a complete flood at the end of more bills, but you have to start figuring out who your sponsors are, and look more strategy to your final 3. So.
I just got just one thing to add to that. If you guys have an idea for a bill, please tell me before session starts. Because it's really hard to get a bill going good and get all the research done before session starts, because LRC is backed up really deep, like right now, and for about the first month before session. So if you do have an idea and you want some legislation done, please come to me now, so we can have it for next year's legislative session. If we decide to put it back in, and then if they replace me, I'll give them the information, and they'll hopefully run the bill for you.
Just a little more information. These guys are on LRC to write the bills, Legislative Research Council, works the legislature on close to 500 bills and resolutions this year. Over 100 of them have come from the second floor, from people that are not legislators. The governor, committee chairman carrying those bills as a courtesy to these departments or whatever, Department of Ag, Department of Education, I know has quite a few bills. So that is taking up a lot of, it's kind of unusual to have that many from the administration, but it is what it is. And, you know, once a bill's dropped in, has to have either a committee, chairman of the committee, drop it in or whatever, because bureaucrats cannot drop in bills, thank goodness. Has to be a legislator, but it does take up time. It takes up time for the LRC to write these bills and push it forward. They do all the research and the wording and all that, so. But
If I can touch back on the livestock situation, we as a nation have to understand that it's just not cattle that are affected. Horses, I have relatives that have had horses stolen recently. Sheep by the trailer road. So this dishonesty deal within that ag community isn't just western South Dakota, it isn't just eastern South Dakota. And our law enforcement needs to work a little bit harder on these issues. This is just my opinion, but that's how I see it. Thank you.
okay, comments? Anybody else?
I just want to bring up the property tax issue. I'm sure you guys know where I stand on that issue, but we've had a 25% property tax increase in 1 year, and that's killing a lot of people. And I know you guys are probably working on something to fix that, but one of the disappointments I had in the governor's State of the State speech, he didn't mention anything about property taxes. And I just want to make sure that that gets brought to their attention.
I think there was a summer study on property taxes. They brought forth, 19 bills affecting property taxes. There's some others. One from the governor. You were on that committee. Maybe you'll make a comment. And then some individuals that, if they didn't pass through that committee, will still bring them because just because the committee didn't like them doesn't mean they can't bring them. So, comment?
Well, I don't want to clarify, I'm a property tax expert. But like Mr. Bruner said, I think the last information I received is we have over 30 bills trying to address property taxes. We will see at the end of, by crossover day, how many make it to the House floor. One of my biggest concerns when we're dealing with it is what are the unintended consequences and what are the shifts. And we spend so much time arguing our different ideas that we don't refine a really good singular bill to address some of the actual issues. And I'll be one of the first ones to admit our second floor, our governor's office, and our legislature are maybe competing with ideas and competing with these issues and not working together to figure out an actual solution. So I really do hate to say this, but I don't know if we're going to have a satisfactory solution this session. I think all three of us up here are searching for that, but to get 2/3, because it takes 2/3 of your house, 2/3 of your 70 people in the House, and then 2/3 of your 35 people in the Senate, and then your governors all not fight over the issue, it's going to be really, really hard. And we have 30 ideas, and last year the only idea that actually was passed into law was the governor's, what was it? It was
Freeze assessments.
to freeze the assessments, and right now the governor's bill for the property tax solution is to allow the counties to have a 5% sales tax, which may be beneficial to the tax.
Point.
Don't
scare people.
a 0.5% sales tax. I'm from a very rural county where we don't have a lot of sales tax revenue, period. We all come to Rapid to do our shopping, so that would really benefit Pennington County, but it'll do nothing in Seabock County. But historically, my 1.5 sessions that I've been through, the governor has the best momentum to get ideas through, and his idea that he is pushing is that 0.5% sales tax for counties, and I don't, being my rural district, I can't support that. So, I don't have a better answer for you, I wish I did.
that bill, that idea is probably the most consequential property tax relief bill, I think, of any of them, really, other than maybe Melhoff's 2% increase on sales tax to fund education. The governor's bill is probably has the most consequences. Go to there. Comment?
I had a bill that I'm actually reintroducing into the same committee. Just want to make sure I word it correctly. I went out last summer and I went through my district, District 28B, and I talked to our auditors, and there's a lovely young lady up in Hardin County named Kathy Lines. And I absolutely adore her. She's tough and she speaks up. She'll tell you you're wrong. And I like that about her. And I asked her, I just point blank asked her, how come your budgets never go down? Ever. That's a good question. And she goes, because of the 3% plus growth tax cap. I said, well, that doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? She said, well, the reason that is because they've got you locked into this little window. So you have 3 years where you could drop your property tax, your budget down to, a reasonable amount, but you always have to go back up to that your max every 3 years. So what happens is no one's ever going to drop below that and keep it there, because once you do that, you get to a point to where you can only raise that 3% plus growth. And if you have a bad winter and the roads are all snowed in and you've got to spend a lot of money, you can't risk that only going up 3% plus growth the next year if you drop your budget to where it's like, they're cutting their budget enough to where they're trying to save the taxpayers' money, is what I'm saying. So, what this bill would do, what this would have done is open that window up to forever. So, if, say, Butte County decided that they could cut their expenses and they brought their property or their budget down, my bill would keep that 3% plus growth cap, plus their growth cap from now on, just like it is right now. It would just go off 3% every year. But the county could drop their budget to where they could save you guys money every year. You could lower your property taxes in this. And then if you did have, say, a bad winter and you had a bunch of snow, that property tax for the next year could go up to that cap where it's already currently at, and then drop back down. You would have a savings between the drop and the next spike. Right now, it's just straight up 3% plus growth every year. Every county is doing that. So this would give the counties more flexibility to drop their property taxes. So I know that's complicated, but I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. That was my contribution, I guess.
So, I have a question about unintended consequences. I understand that thought, Ken. But aren't counties like subdivisions of state government? So wouldn't the counties and the state have to work through that issue of revenue apportionment? And can't that be fixed? And why not give the citizens some property tax relief and then fix whatever's not working right? I mean, what's the problem with that type of approach?
Well, look at me, I'm just moderator.
You're a county commissioner. So let me make sure I understand the question. So you're asking for the state to take responsibility responsibility for the county's taxation, right? And give us some property tax relief, correct? Correct, I got you. So, I'm a local control kind of guy. I want Tom to have more control of this county than the state. I think that's the best way to go. So, I know that it's intertwined with the state in taxation a lot. I've been trying to do as much study as I can on that when I was drafting this bill. But I believe that if you give people the opportunity, like the rest of the county commissioners that are here, to be able to lower their budgets without the detrimental effects of being locked in that little 3% plus growth the next year, I believe they will. I believe if you give people the opportunity to help their neighbors, cut their property taxes, I believe they will. Maybe not old fashioned, I don't know, but that's my view.
I don't see these property taxes going down until they reduce.
Well, I just want to bring in, like, big picture. Our state has a $7.4 billion budget. Our two biggest expenditures are education and healthcare right now. Medicaid expansion, we're looking for the Medicaid. This last year was the first year that education was not our biggest expenditure. We spend $1 billion on education, but we actually are spending more on Medicaid and Medicaid expansion, and that projection is going to go higher. So as a state, we have to prioritize our spending, and right now, the way our state operates, we set our budget and then we look for the revenue. Like, then we're like, we need this revenue to match it. And with our property taxes, education has driven a lot of the revenue, but in specific counties, the property taxes is more painful in some counties versus others. At least on the property tax, summer study, it was very noticeable that some counties have had a lot of increases and a lot more pressure put on their shoulders than others. And that, I think, kind of does fall back to how county commissioners control their local counties. But going back to what I was trying to say, big picture, our state is spending a lot of money on things that we are prioritizing. And if we don't want to increase our property taxes, we've got to look at cuts. And to date, there's not a cut that the state has been willing to make because there's not really a push by the public for those cuts yet. So I guess to answer your question, we've got to prioritize it. If we want to get relief, where are we willing to cut?
There was a bill that was going to be introduced to bring the Medicaid deal back to the vote of the people. That apparently got killed right away. When that,
But there's another one that does that. The reason they killed that proposal was because there's another one, right? The repeal of the Medicaid expansion.
We voted in something last year that will go on the ballot this year to, I think it might be work. If you're going to be if you want to be in Medicaid on expansion, you have to. Okay, well, I think we voted on another thing for Medicaid last year. It's on the ballot as well. But I am sorry, I can't remember.
We voted last November, there was on the ballot about requiring work for Medicaid recipients. This one is a full repeal of the Medicaid expansion. And I know what Bill died just the other day in committee, but the reason they killed it, I don't know, Florida. But there's another one that takes care of that, right?
That's what they said, but my memory is not good enough to know if we did bring about like that last year. But we did vote on a bill this year to repeal the whole Medicaid expansion and die on the hospital. So that's not a kind of route that our state is looking to go down at the moment.
I gathered that. When the citizens voted that in, Ryan Maher was in the Senate then, and he told me then that was going to break the state before we were done. That was going to be so costly, it was going to break this state.
If the federal government ever decreases the amount that they put into it, we will not be able to afford what.
That's what the new one says. If the federal government drops below 90%, our expansion is repealed, right? It's a trigger law.
Yes, and that's what we passed last year to go on the next act.
Yes.
And our 10% amounts to how many dollars?
How many dollars are going
Yeah.
So I know the federal government does 90%, the state does 10%, and it doesn't matter what our revenue is, we put it in 10%. If it's bad, we put it in 10%.
What's the dollar figure of that 10%? Do you know that?
You need an appropriation.
I was just curious.
Let us know though, we'll get you information.
Because I get
Question in the back, Mark?
Concerning the property tax and then 0.5% sales tax, and I get it, because all the money would go to the big cities, right? So what if that tax was collected and then dispersed equally among all the counties? I haven't thought all the ramifications out of that, but we've only had 10 minutes to solve it, so. But all the money's collected and dispersed equally among the counties. Just throwing that out there.
That's a good. I'm kind of going back to the local control thing on that deal, because you're basically going to have 66 bureaucrats and here determining how much money you get back, because every county has different needs, different different amounts of people, and different amounts of land and resources. So you're going to have a giant bureaucracy determining where that money goes. So I would probably not be for that.
Well, but if it's all equal, I mean, if you collect $1 million and divide it equally among the counties of the big cities, they won't get their fair share as they see it. But they'll get all the business that comes from it with the regular sales tax and everything else. And the other counties, the small counties like Butte County and out here, they will reap more than their equal share, but they are also contributing to it probably more.
Well,
I'm just saying that
we want to make sure that the taxation is equal, in my view, anyway, because if you do that, I mean, like, one of my counties, Perkins County is going to make out like a bandit on the deal, because if they're getting, Perkins County getting the same amount of money as Minnehaha.
that's my point.
Yeah.
You know, this is how you fund these poor counties. But the bigger cities still get more benefits from all the people that come and shop.
I see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying? They get regular sales tax and everything else.
Yeah, at least in the city.
When I iron out all the problems of that.
Okay, yeah, you let me know.
Go ahead, David.
The county is the one I'm kind of worried about, because if the county roads in Minnehaha are getting the same amount of money as Perkins County or any of these other smaller counties, we're going to have, I don't know, please come back with a bill, and I would love to.
I'm not worried about Minnehaha.
Yeah.
No more questions? Great.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In those 30 pieces of legislation that are supposedly affecting property taxes, are any of those considering senior citizens? Are any of those bills going to affect senior citizens in a good way?
Well,
I believe Senator Boyd is bringing a Senate bill that has a carve out for senior citizens to try and protect some of our elderly population. Since it's a Senate bill, and it has to be with the Senate committee and the Senate floor, I haven't read it yet, but I did hear him talking that he did bring a bill to try and do a carve out for senior citizens for property taxes, but I can't give you more information on that.
wow. And I can also tell you that I've got some information that I'll give you, and senior citizens do have a carve out on property taxes currently, so I'll give you that information after the meeting.
So I respect you guys. I think you're doing a good job, best you can. But what I'm hearing is this probability of getting tax relief for citizens isn't likely to happen because we can't figure out how to cut government, because all these other things we're concerned about, the unintended consequences. But what about citizens whose taxes are more than their house payment We don't really care how you do it. We don't care about the unintended consequences. You guys need to figure out how to fix it.
Get her done.
So I'll just add before these guys do, there is a petition going around, probably one in this room, about completely eliminating property taxes, going to a receipt tax. There's a lot of thought that the legislature will never fix this issue, and the citizens have to do it themselves. So I have a little more faith in our legislature than that. I think there's some good issues out there that we could, when we look at property taxes, you look at your tax bill, 60% of it on the average, some more, some less, goes to education. So they go to fund your local county, it goes to fund education. So there's a bill that Jim Allen has to fund it through the sales tax instead of property taxes. Probably has some merit, but here comes a conversation about the biggest tax increase in history, the sales tax. So that's the conversation that goes on.
Well, I'm not saying there's no solutions. I'm just saying we don't have enough people that are behind one solution. Ted Turner owns over 2 million acres in the state of South Dakota. Ted Turner made a deal with the federal government that when his son dies, he's going to turn all of his land over to the federal government. Ted Turner has not paid South Dakota property tax since the 80s. He has over 2 million acres in the state.
How's that possible?
You tell me. You tell me. But it is something that the state should be taking on, but we won't have people fight for that. We have got a Vera monument in Sanford that are non-for-profit, so they don't pay property taxes. Okay? Our non-for-profits don't pay property taxes, you guys. Betty Sanford has an arena in Sioux Falls where they put on concerts, and that's underneath his non-for-profit branch. So he does not pay property taxes on his arena down there. There are issues that we can address, but you need 42 people in your house that are willing to take on those big fights, and you need 18 people in your Senate that are willing to take on those big fights. And you've got 3 people up here that are willing to do it, but we do not have the numbers to do it down there. There are solutions, but we need people all on the same side to deal with this. And I'm not trying to pick on Benny Sanders, but I am saying he has a lot of money, he has a lot of employees, and there are people that work in the legislature that are directly employed beneath him that do not want to see him pay more property taxes. We are bringing the bill, House Bill 1004, which is going to attempt to take away property taxes for data centers for the next 50 years. Because South Dakota really wants to develop economic development and encourage more businesses to come into our state. And that in itself is not wrong. But when we're encouraging them by telling them that they don't need to pay sales taxes, property taxes, at the expense of our citizenry, we need to start working on those issues. But to work on those issues, more citizens need to be awake to make sure that they've got legislators that are representing the people of their district and not the corporations. And that's where my financially conservative perspective comes into place. But to go back to your statement, there are solutions. We just can't get enough people behind them to actually fix them.
Well, that's encouraging.
I'd just like to say, we have a lot of, in South Dakota, a lot of tax exempt entities that, like advertising, they don't pay tax. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of untaxed entities in South Dakota.
And if you'd like to see that, there's a book, you can go to the LRC, there's a book about an inch thick of tax exempt entities for the state of South Dakota. Not you, but entities that are in the state.
And to be fair, a lot of them hinge around agriculture.
A lot of the exemptions are so there's not a double tax. Like if you're going to go take your grain, you might have a better answer. What I was explaining was we don't want to double tax people on their products, so we're going to exempt them in one area and they're going to have to pay the tax on the other area. And there's a really good example for grain, but I'm not a farmer and I don't understand it. So if anybody is, you can explain better.
Well, if you turn around and you're feed that went into those heifers, how do you do that? I can sell my neighbor hay to feed his cattle, how do you keep track of that? How do you keep track? I know every time I sold flat, you're basically going to make liars out of a lot of people when you try to collect them on hay and feed and livestock, things like that. That's very crippling, I think, for the industry.
Data centers have become a hot topic in our community, and I just want some clarification because you had just stated that they were going to be exempt from property tax. To the best of my knowledge, I believe it's actually sales tax and only on equipment, not property tax.
I might be wrong, let me read the bill.
It is on sales tax.
It is on sales tax only for equipment, and if I remember right, I believe the legislature is going through to figure out exactly how long so that we can be competitive with our neighboring states, so that we're not saying, oh, we're only going to give you 10, but just across the border to Wyoming is going to give you 50 years so that they want to build in Beulah versus Belle Fourche. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page there, but I'm pretty positive that it is on
Use taxes.
Yes, right.
So the current version is 50 years.
That's okay, I just didn't want that misinformation going around town. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Well, and I think the point that I was trying to make is we are suffering, our people are paying more taxes, and we're bringing bills that are making exemptions for these bigger projects. And I fundamentally have a problem with that, because if we're expected to pay our fair share of property taxes, everybody should be expected to pay their fair share of whatever tax that is imposed on them. But I do appreciate the clarification.
Okay.
Just for a little clarification about agriculture, if you go into Minnesota or another state and buy a tractor for $500,000 and you don't report that to the state has a long arm. And somehow, I don't know how they do it, but they find out it could be in Missouri and you're going to get your tax bill from the state of South Dakota. So that agricultural people are paying their taxes on the equipment they're paying.
Thank you for running the city council. You're a brave soul. Good luck.
Just one last question here on the property taxes. Suppose for a moment that this petition that's been circulating for no property tax goes through. What happens then?
We'll get a state income tax.
Anybody else?
Well, to address sales tax, Washington State has sales tax. Oregon State does not. Now you cross the border into Oregon and you buy something at major stores there. They ask you immediately what your zip code is, and it's tracked. They charge you the sales tax for Washington, and Oregon pays it back to Washington. So why can't you ask what your zip code is when you buy something in Pennington County, and you say it's 57717, and that sales tax that you're paying, that 0.5%, comes back to Butte County, or to Perkins, or to wherever you're from. And you have to show your driver's license. It's not like, you can say, oh, I'm from Alzada, and no, you're not.
That's a good idea.
Well, thank you for that comment. Washington. Tonight, it'd be very easy for everybody, people from Belle Fourche, shops and spearfish, that money comes back to Butte County. But what about the people that come to Butte County and shop? What's the balance? And I don't know what it'd be, how many people from outside the county come to Runnings, from Lawrence County come to Runnings to shop, or from like equipment at Rosenberg, whatever, that stays in this county. So I don't know what the balance would be, what we'd have to trade. It might be dollar for dollar, I don't know, but that was kind of brought up the other night at the meeting that, you could, the technology's probably there to get that money back to your home county, but would you also pay out the other way?
Yeah, I would argue Belle Fourche has approximately 6,000 people. Way more than 6,000 people come to Belle Fourche throughout the year for tourism. it would be a dead loss if we went that way. I did want to comment on something you had said earlier about that you were against the half-cent sales tax to offset only the county portion of the sales tax, or the property tax, because it wouldn't benefit your county, Zeeland County.
Right, yeah.
So I guess my thought is I would challenge you to think about how your vote affects the entire state, not just your district or your county. Something like that could help a lot of counties throughout the state. It may not help your county, but it could help other counties, and it's not going to hurt your county. If Butte County, the citizens of Butte County vote to have that, it's not going to hurt you or your constituents where you live. So voting against it may inadvertently hurt the state just because you don't benefit. Thanks.
Anyone else?
I have another question.
You just mentioned briefly about data centers. We've heard that there's data centers that are considered moving to Butte County. Is there some way that we can regulate those data centers? Everybody knows the problems that they're going to present to us. I just want to bring that up, that there's a concern about data centers.
I believe that there's a petition going around right now that's going to deal with data centers in the county.
Well, I probably speak for our other commissioners in the fact that we wouldn't want to decide whether they come or not. But if it went to the citizens for a vote, we'd probably support that. But I don't know if I want to be responsible for saying people. And there is a petition, I believe, going around that asks it to come to a vote to ban them or regulate them somehow. But keep in mind, most everybody says they're for less government, less control. It works both ways.
Yes.
You know, if you keep out what you don't want, you also keep out maybe what somebody else does want. So, got a question, Betty?
Oh, this is for Jana. Jana, would you explain the vote on House Bill 5001, like you were telling me earlier?
So, I've only served in this legislature. This is my first term. This is my second time down there for an actual, when we're down there. You can amend things on the floor. So some legislator, we can have a bill that's really, really good, or in my opinion, good, or really, really bad, doesn't matter. You have a bill that says one thing. But one legislator can bring an amendment and drop it 10 minutes before we speak on the floor, and if he gets that amendment on there, it can completely change what the bill measure said. And if lawyer reads is a term, okay? Lawyers can make something that I would think mean one thing, but a lawyer will come and explain to you how it's different. It can mean something completely different. So that is what I think happened on 5001. The bill read one way. There was an amendment added, and it was just one word, solely. But that word solely, after a constitutional lawyer came and talked to me later on, said changes the complete meaning of the bill. So I, in my naivety and not understanding the legal ramifications, after we added the amendment, still voted yes to the bill because I thought the purpose of the bill was remaining the same. However, I did not vote correctly because I did not understand the full ramifications of the amendment. And I'm hoping that our senator friends will fix our House mistake, because which is very, very, very dangerous and a very, very rookie mistake that I apologize deeply for, but it was a naivety and I did not mean to do that. But that is how that vote went. It will be going over to the Senate State Affairs Committee, and I pray that they fix our mistake pretty much.
Isn't there such a rule as there is no such thing as a friendly amendment?
That's not a rule, but it is a pertinent.
We need to remember that.
Yeah.
What's the dangerous part of amending on the floor? What if somebody else had a
Concerning the data centers, I would caution everybody just to have that absolutely no, and just to say no against anything when you're not fully educated on it. There's discussion about data centers, but none are coming in. We had this discussion at economic development, but Black Hills Power and Economic Development wants to set up an opportunity for some education on it. Because one of the things you're talking about with a reduction in property taxes is to bring new business and economic development in that pays property taxes. And that broadens the tax base. So don't be ignorant about a possibility of some economic development to this. We have to do it right. We don't want to do it like they did, I think, in Georgia, where there was a bad experience. So just keep your mind open on it.
I would guess that this room is filled mostly with American patriots. Am I the only one concerned about Sharia law in this room? Is anything being done in Pierre? Epic, Texas is going to, the state of Texas is voting on Sharia law, if you can imagine, on March 3rd. We better not go there.
I didn't see the dates.
Well, I vow to, I will make sure when I go back up here that I will get that something
Thank you.
taken care of on that city. And I will contact you when I get it figured out.
Thank you.
Well, I know there is a bill going through to protect churches from yes, from what happened in Minneapolis, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a different issue than Sharia law.
We understand your concern. It's been mentioned before. It wasn't something on my radar before this conversation, but I think it is something worth bringing legislation.
Really have to stay on top of that.
I would be happy to.
I'll get with you, Tom.
Disruption of religious service.
I don't know what, is that what, disruption of religious service, yeah. You get that one?
Reminder, we are live on Facebook, Joe.
Other questions, comments?
Yeah, I got a question. My name is Connor Lynn. I was talking to my financial advisor about investing in some energy transfer companies. And they're looking at building a data center down in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And currently they have 11 million gigawatts of energy use down there. The data center is going to need 18 million gigawatts just to run itself. They're going to have to build 4 power plants to power that data center. My concern is the infrastructure. We don't have the infrastructure for these data centers. We're already stressed over that. And that's going to increase our electrical costs and our gas use and all that. So I really hope you guys vote against this. So thank you.
AI is a hydrogen bomb waiting to go off. We better get our heads wrapped around this thing and go to work on it.
There's, address that trouble there. There is talk in the works to put in a small nuclear plant, little pockets of nuclear plants that would run the AI data center.
Anybody else? There's got to be more things offering us.
I've been just doing a ton of research on the data centers lately, and there's several different sizes of data centers. So in our area, based on what I could see, there's no way that we would be able to accommodate a data center in comparing it to Cheyenne. We're just a much smaller area around here. Data centers are also used to house your medical information. So that would be for Monument Health, things like that. So it's not necessarily all AI. Unfortunately, we're not going to get rid of AI. I realize it is, and I agree, it is a ticking time bomb. However, when we think about the large scale of things, do we want our information sitting in China, or do we want our information sitting in the United States of America? That's just something I would like you guys to think about before you make your final decision. On top of that, a lot of the things that we're seeing come up with this petition to abolish the thought of data centers, I noticed there's some older information on there stating that we were going to need millions and millions of gallons of water, and that was true with how they were building 5 years ago. That's not true today. Most data centers that are up to current standards are actually using less water than your typical household in our community. So I just encourage you to please go out and do a ton of research before you decide whether you're going to vote for or against, because as someone who's kind of in the middle, I can see pros and cons on both sides, but there's a lot of information out there that I think is being mishandled.
One of my biggest, like I said at the very, very beginning, is I was born and raised on a ranch. I currently live on that ranch. I love agriculture. I love the people that we produce in South Dakota. We're tough, we're gritty, we're consequential thinkers. You get a kid out on a farm that knows that if you try to call a cow's bluff, you might get run over. My biggest concern is with the more land we take out of ag production, what is South Dakota exchanging for that loss of ag use? And I really do look at a lot through how this is going to affect agriculture. And there's so many questions on the data centers for so many different infrastructure issues, financial issues, tax issues, religious, moral issues. But that fact that South Dakota used to have 19,000 ag independent operators, and in my lifetime, we're down to 13,000 independent ag producers. And I'm not 30 yet. So when I was born in 1997, we had over 19,000. It is now 2026, and we have 13,000, and that number is projected to continue to go down. And I'm a defender of ag. And what are we going to do as a state to defend agriculture, promote independent operators? And I just don't know if this talk of continuing to take land out of egg production is even the conversation that I'm willing to entertain. Because I want to see, how can we put more land back in egg production? How can we get more small farmers? How can we get more small ranchers? And that's just another aspect to be looking at this AI stuff and other big companies that come into our small rural areas that want to revenue, create sources of revenue. What is our exchange in our culture? Because I really don't want to see that 13,000 independent producers in South Dakota drop below 10,000, drop below 6,000, drop below 1% of our state. And if we don't really analyze what we want to do in the future, we're going to continue to see those numbers drop. So just as you're mentioning, other things to be aware of when you're looking at that big picture.
Anybody else? Don't be shy.
A big factor in not losing ag land is urban sprawl development. I graduated from high school, selfish, 1975. And all this ground around here was they'll never see it, but never hit livestock again.
Pretty sad.
Yeah, thanks. In regard, I was hesitant to even say anything about this in regards to the data centers. If you live within the city limits or close proximity of the city limits, we're protected from, or we have some controls in place that protect us from data center. I'm not saying they're good or bad. I don't know enough about them, but I keep hearing everyone talk about land rights and protecting our way of life, and I agree with that. But for those of us who live in close proximity of the city limits, we have those protections. And there's two words you don't mention in Butte County, you never say them in the same sentence, and that's zoning and then ordinance. But within the city limits, or within the 3 mile city limits, we have zoning ordinances. A data center would have to fit within Clark and Jill. They have to fit within a category. Probably that would be industrialism, I guess. So you could put a data center right next to my neighborhood. But it's you guys that live out the country, you ag people, you guys better get some protections in place now. You better get ahead of it. Because it might not be any of you that are worried, but what about your neighbor who's had a hard year? And one of these data centers wants to come in and buy them out. Now you've got issues, and you have issues because you have nothing in place to protect. Better to get something in place now, amend it later, than to have nothing. Because if someone comes in tomorrow, buys a piece of property next to Sam, you got nothing, Sam. That person's going to do whatever they want with that property, and you can't do anything about it. So that's the sticky part of it. We want those property rights, and we want to do what we want to do with our property. But if you want to protect that ag way of life, now is the time to get ahead of it. And you can do that through some, again, I hate that word ordinance, but some protective ordinances. And if the agricultural community would get together and put some things down on paper what you guys want that to look like, then I think that would be a good approach.
And also very delicate balance. We want the freedom.
Yeah.
But, you know, everybody else has the same freedoms, so, you know, we're good. Anybody else?
I have a question about the education. I talked with the government and history teacher earlier this year, and she said that South Dakota history is no longer in the curriculum. Is there something there that could be changed, or?
Okay, well, I'm on the education committee, and I hear a lot from people that want to modify the curriculum. And there's been several bills this year that came through education that we did just, well, they wanted to do just that. It's kind of the education committee, or education, Department of Education has protocol where you can go and suggest, like, if you put in different curriculum, the education committee, or the Department of Education has the authority to do that. The legislature, we do too, but if you do it that way, the Department of Education kind of sees it as a slap in the face. And they come in and they will go after you if you
the teacher unions and all that are gonna come out against it, and, I'm just saying, I would try that first. If you can't get anywhere, come to me, I'll run the bill for you.
You know, that's very true. There's been a lot of attempts in the past to control that curriculum from the legislature. And the loudest voice says, mind your own business. And, you know, and it's largely from the teachers, from schools, whatever, that group of lobbyists that don't think they want curriculum legislator. They want to do whatever they do, and it's fair, but it still needs to be addressed.
Yes. And I'm glad to do it for you. I'm just saying, they might just go ahead and do it.
What grade level are we talking about?
It was in the high school. High school.
Belfouche High School?
No, this was up in Hardin County.
Belfouche High School, I know, teaches South Dakota history. But, I'm not sure if there's a state mandate on it. But middle school, and then there's a system where they put together English and history and things like that, but they're reading historical things that apply across the board. But, I'm sure South Belfouche School District has an active history and geography program.
Other questions? I'll give you guys, we're ready to wrap up. I'll give you guys each, whatever time you need, a few minutes to say your final remarks or whatever. Just as you, just to give you a second to compose your thoughts. This is a big year in the state and the county, or the city of Belle for elections. We've got, 3 positions coming up in April. The city, their special election. A lot of positions in the county. We've got a register of deeds that is not running again. We've got an auditor, several of 3 county commissioners out of 5 that are up for re-election. Sheriff is up for re-election. These 3 guys are up for re-election. We've got an important governor's race. We've got a house race. And the media might say favorites, but I think a whole lot of these races are up in the air about, especially our statewide races, about who's the favorites and whatever. A lot of things going on. So please educate yourself on these people that are running and go over the process of hiring a director of legalization in the county, and a lot of things, a lot of changes in the air, and a lot of things going on. So please avail yourself of any information that you can. And if you have questions, call the county commissioner, call these guys, tell everybody your email address when you wrap up, and go ahead.
Well, I first and foremost want to thank everybody for coming out here today. The government starts with citizens, and if you don't have good citizens, you're not going to have good government. So thank you legislature.gov. My phone number is 605-200-2057. I want to be intentional with every vote. I want to represent my district the best that I can. As I stated earlier, my priorities are to the Lord, to our Constitution, and to my communities. So the more dialogue, the more different opinions, the more refined thoughts that we can get, the better government we'll have in the state of South Dakota. So the more involvement on every level that we can get, the better off we are.
You know how hard it is to be the B team? Well, you know everything I was gonna say, but, same thing. I really want to hear from you guys. If we differ, great. If we agree, great. I don't care. I want to make the best decisions for this community that I possibly can, and for the whole state, because we are an elected vote. But I just want to let everybody know that I really appreciate when my constituents talk to me. It means a lot to me. So, I mean, if you guys would, I'll give you my card here before I leave, and my legislative email is travis.ismay@sdlegislature.gov. My cell phone number is 605-490-6010. Call me anytime, except after midnight. When you put in like an 18-hour day, it gets a little drastic when you gotta get back in at 5:30 in the morning and go to bed at midnight, so it's interesting. But I really appreciate when you guys talk to me.
Well, I'm the C team. After these two, I agree with all of what they have said. And yes, and I really like the involvement that the Belle Fourche community has here. It's great to see it. Because when I first started out, you know, a handful of people would show up. But you look around this room, there's a lot of people that have serious ideas and kind of what we want to discuss one another. So I really appreciate the involvement here in Belle. And I'd just like to say one thing. I said over in Newell, I met with the Taiwanese delegation, two young ladies out of Denver, Colorado. And we had a great conversation, and they just bought, I don't know how many metric tons of small grains from the United States, and that bumped it up a penny or two, which is a big deal for our farmers. I forget, they're a big chip manufacturer in Taiwan, and if we do the R&D over here, research and development, and then they take that and they go from there. But Taiwan is bringing over $100+ billion, and they're building a data center, a chip making plant in Arizona. And they're working on it as we speak. And I asked the young lady that how big Taiwan is, because it looks very big on the map. I was flabbergasted. Well, that's what it is. Taiwan is 5.5 times smaller than South Dakota.
Your legislative district is bigger than Taiwan.
Yeah, with 23+ million people. It's amazing, yeah. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you guys for being here. Let's give them a hand. Comments in closing. All the bills that they talk about, you can track them down if you need help figuring out how to get to the website. Just talk to one of us. It's very easy to follow. You can follow what they're doing individually. You can follow the committees they're on. It's important. You can call up and attempt to testify sometimes. I hope James testified on a bill. I mean, it's not hard to do. It's part of the process, so we appreciate that. Anything else?
Yes, I just wanted to hop on and say one of the things that why I am so proud
proud to work with Belle Fourche and Butte County is because we are able to have these conversations and keep our composure and show respect to each other. So thank you so much for showing up today. I do encourage you before you leave to keep the conversation going. We have really good representative of people in our community in this room right here. There are people who are on boards, different boards throughout the community. We have somebody on city council, somebody with the county. Before you leave, go talk, mingle, meet people, like-minded people. Make sure you get contacts and connection because this is a great place to do it. Thank you.